welcome to another episode of One Missed Pod. I'm your host, Kelly Warner.
I'm Zack Long.
And today we're going to be talking about one of the best regarded films of all time, Kenji Mizoguchi's Ugetsu from 1953. But first,
Well deserved.
yes, it is. But first, what's new, Zack?
Well, I have another crush. Not a new
Okay.
one. Just more like, this. And then, I watched the new Netflix anime movie, A Whisker Away. And that
Okay.
is a lovely, lovely film. It's about a girl who doesn't particularly like her own lot in life, and she buys a cat mask off of a oversized cat who is selling them to her. It's just a talking cat. So every time she puts that on, she becomes a cat, and he keeps trying to convince her to give up her human mask and stay as a cat forever.
Mm-hmm.
She uses this mask to get close, and because of it, she gets close to the guy she likes, her classmate, because he's really nice to cats and helped her, and she helps him, and it goes back and forth, and it gets into some very I'm blanking on the name of Miyazaki's company.
Studio Ghibli.
It gets very much like one of their films. Yeah, like The Cat Returns mixed with it would be The Cat Returns mixed with Whispers of the Heart.
I don't even know if I've seen Whispers of the Heart.
Oh, Whispers of the Heart is awesome. I don't know if this applies to US listeners, but Canadian Netflix just got all of Studio Ghibli's films.
Nope, that does not apply here. Studio Ghibli is all exclusive to HBO Max here. So yeah.
Okay, well, I do highly recommend watching Whispers of the Heart. It's a very good movie about what it's like to be young and to fall in love, and also to discover and fall in love with your ability to write.
Oh, really? Okay, that's cool.
So people like us that pull our fucking hair out when we sit down to write, we can relate to it.
Yeah.
Though also, we have the whole problem where it's like, oh shit, what does love mean? What's that? But
I don't know. Does the cartoon tell us?
No.
No. Okay.
Maybe love is pedaling uphill. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a very good movie, though. I really do like it. I blind bought it, because it's the Actually, you know what? It's really fitting that I use those two examples, because Whispers of the Heart is actually the prequel to The Cat Returns. In Whispers of the Heart, she sees a cat figurine and she imagines it as the lead character of her book. And then in The Cat Returns, he's just a character that opens up and brings somebody to that world.
Okay, I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Yeah, I hadn't known that. That's why I bought it, though. My ex-girlfriend knew that, and I was like, I love The Cat Returns. That's one of my favorite movies. And Whisker Away, the new Netflix anime movie, really, really hits that well. And I watched a horror film called Trick. And Trick is very interesting, actually. I bought it thinking I think it's a film called Haunt. It's one where I thought it was the one where maybe Eli Roth is involved, somebody's involved. There's some reason everybody cared, and they had the people who had done, they had like facial, injections of silicone into their face to give them horns to make them look demonish. That's not what the movie was, though. I rented the wrong movie.
Oh.
But it was only 99 cents, so I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this new one, see what it is. And it's a slasher movie. Oh, you're about to say?
No. I mean, I was going to say, hey, it's nice when you rent the wrong movie and you end up liking it, though. I mean, that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, so this is a slasher movie, and it starts out, and we're at a party with some teens, and we haven't met any of them yet, so we're like, okay, who is this? And they're playing Spin the Bottle. and it's one guy gets it and like has to kiss the other guy or something, or like likes the girl and somebody has to kiss somebody, and we're focusing on this other guy, and we're like, is he the boyfriend? What's going on? What's the social? And he just stabs them, and then like goes ape shit and stabs like 8 other people. And it was so early in the film, I was like, wait, are they like, is the trick like on the audience? Are they gonna yell cut or something now? Like, because it's so violent. And then like the film stops and slows down for 5 minutes, and then it goes into like a lengthy run-in action like John Woo slasher scene where like Trick kills like 4, 5, 6 people. Then the movie slows down for 5 minutes and does it again, and you're just like, what? How is this keeping this up? Like it starts where basically like he was shot a bunch of times. Like he gets stabbed in the first party. We have 5 minutes of them being like, who is he? Let's go to the hospital. They get to the hospital where he goes crazy, kills a bunch of people, breaks out, they shoot him, he goes away. And we're like, okay, well, that was that, I guess. And then, like, just 5 minutes to be like, okay, well, now it's next Halloween, and oh, fuck, there's Trick! and so then it goes to next Halloween again, because they're just like, okay, well, now we understand that Trick is coming back yearly. And now I'm on it. Oh, shit, he killed the FBI agents. Trick is after us. And then it cuts to the next year, and the guy is, like, got fired, and Trick keeps coming back. And...
It's like they did a whole slasher franchise in one movie.
They really did. And on top of that, like it actually has a very interesting concept for the villain when you finally get down to it. I'm not going to spoil that at all, because to spoil that would be but
yeah,
it is so over the top, and I didn't know anything about it. I'm sure the trailers make it look over the top, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know how they couldn't, but it gets like there is a slasher scene in it that is it wouldn't be out of place in The Raid.
Oh, I always thought those were kind of like horror action movies, you know, in a way.
Well, The Raid 1 especially, because The Raid 1 is they're going to fucking kill you. They are drugged up to the point that they're not human. They are monsters. They are the other. You will die.
Yeah.
It is literally claw your way out of hell. Good luck. And there's only one person that can do that. It's Doom Guy.
Doom Guy?
Doom Guy. The guy that you play in Doom.
Oh, all right. Oh, I don't know.
That was your week, Kel.
It's been a tough week. I'm very tired, but I'm working on getting my books published and transferring some names, and it's tedious work, but I'm making progress, and I think that by the time the next episode airs, that I should have some stuff to announce.
Oh my god, I just realized that we both have something that we could tease.
Ooh, what do you have?
What do I have? What do we have, you silly goose? What did we... Oh, did you get it? It clicked back in?
Yeah, no, I'm tired. I told you.
It's something that's going to happen. It's going to happen about once a month. There will be blood. I mean,
yeah,
there will be. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. I'm trying to figure out.
Hey, there's actually one scene in particular that will just have a insane geyser of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm not sure. You're just gonna tease it all, right?
Oh, I'm just going to... Well, let's put it this way. It has something to do with the last episode.
Yeah.
And we had to cut out a large chunk of what we spoke about in that episode.
Yeah, we kind of came up with an idea.
No explanation whatsoever to what it was.
No, yeah,
How much do we want to tease?
I think you're teasing a lot already, and none of it makes sense.
I know. That's the best part.
Let's leave it there for now.
Ah, I like it.
Um,
That's
okay.
cruel and unusual. It's just like
Yeah.
let me tickle your
None of it
nethers
makes
and leave the
sense,
room.
whatever. It's okay, before we get to the discussion about our movie of the week, I want to just give a little bit of new release updates in Asian horror. And one of them is a new Blu-ray release from Arrow Video. Yes, we talk about them often. Um, it's a
Because
new
they're
Korean
amazing.
horror comedy called Zombie for Sale. It hits shelves in the US on July 7th. It looks very goofy, but it looks fun. I don't know much about it other than it came out in Korea last year, but yeah. So that's the one update as far as a new title. And also should note that by the time this episode is airing, within a couple days, the new Netflix series Ju-on Origins should begin airing on July 3rd.
Yes, yes. So that we'll have one more episode after this. That will be Onibaba, what we're watching next week.
And then we're going to talk about Ju-on Origins.
Yeah, and that will be either one, two, or maybe 1,200 episodes. It depends on how
Yeah,
long it is and how
Ju-on
time
Origins
works.
sounds like it's going to be 6 episodes long, but we don't know the length of the episodes, and the length of the
Couldn't
episodes will
find it at
determine how
all.
much time we bother talking about them.
Yeah, could not like it, you can find the 6 episodes part confirmed all over, like,
hmm
but yeah, I checked all over and I could not find anything about it. And it's like, well, we're so close, we might as well just wait. We'll
Yeah,
get the
we'll
episode
figure it
lengths.
out later.
That'll be five
But
minutes,
for
and we'll be like, oh, okay, it's like his shorts, it's his short
Yeah, it's a
films
web
again.
series that's been put on Netflix, and then we'll be like, "Fuck, we got to talk about this."
Well,
Um,
I mean, we'll still talk about it for an episode if that
yeah, for
happens.
sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, hey, we're looking forward to it. And
I
that's
think it
July
will be
3rd.
good.
Yeah, I hope so.
Third,
But
wait, third? I thought it was fifth.
I thought it was the 3rd. The first week of July. We're reliable.
It's either the third or the fourth or fifth. It's somewhere in there.
First week. But for today, we're talking about Ugetsu. Now, you'd seen this before, right?
I love this movie,
Me too.
and one of my biggest regrets when I went to university,
hmm
not college. I went to two different. I went to literally university and college, and so the
Okay.
university had a much nicer library, and in it they had a section for screenplays, and they had a translated copy of Ugetsu on screenplay. And my biggest
hmm
regret is that I did not steal that from their fucking library. And
If
just
that's
to
your
be
biggest
clear, I
regret
didn't
from
steal. I didn't
school,
steal
then
anything
that's
from them.
okay.
So,
Okay, so for people that may not know what Ugetsu is, it is a 1953 film from Kenji Mizoguchi. Now, it is, I personally hesitate to call it a horror movie, especially after watching it again the other week. It is, however, very much a ghost story, and so I'm going to allow it.
it's
Um,
also it is talked about in all the Japanese horror books I looked at. I've seen. Same with we double featured this with Onibaba.
yeah, which is next week.
And yeah. And that also has the same problem. Well, I'm not going to problem in
We'll get
quotes.
to Onibaba
Well,
in a minute,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
but my point here just being that they're both films that they're horror only in the broadest of modern
Now,
definitions.
I think that that one's more horror than Ugetsu is, because I feel like Onibaba tries to scare, threaten, or disturb you. I don't think Ugetsu has but one scene that really does that. The most disturbing stuff is actually wartime drama. You
Well,
know,
I think the most disturbing thing and the thing that Yugetsu does is it tries to scare you based on your obligations. I
yeah,
think it's a I think it's a horror movie that even in its horror itself, it targets a distinctly Japanese audience in a way that, like Onibaba, it will be more straightforward horror in the end.
Mm-hmm.
This one, the horror is you have failed in your obligations, and here's how you suffer. And the horror
Yeah,
is
no.
holding up the social end. It's very conservative in a way if you actually look at it.
No, yeah, it basically Ugetsu, I view it as it's a tragedy about women paying for the ambitions of men, is how I kind of see it.
I would agree with that. And why don't you set up the synopsis of it so
Yeah.
that our audience can see this too?
Okay, so we have two husbands and wives, two married couples at the center of the story. We have Tobei and his wife Ohama. Tobei is a samurai wannabe. He's just this guy, this farmer that just fucking, he wants to pick up a sword and just be a great man. And his wife and basically
Like
everyone else regards him as an
obsessively.
idiot.
Obsessively.
Yes, just he's a child. And
Yes,
then we
he,
have,
he he does not understand at all whatsoever why there's any reason it would be difficult to do this. He thinks he could literally just march off and become a samurai. It
yeah, pretty
is
much. I mean,
it
if I
is
have the armor, if I have the
legitimately,
sword, I'm samurai now, And it's
yeah,
like, no, you're not weighing the cost of this. And he has no understanding for the gravity of the situation that he and his family find themselves in, and the threat of encroaching war.
yeah, none whatsoever, which I mean, at least you say it as a threat. But that's a good way to point out how the other family we meet, they have a different view of war.
So the other family is Genjuro and his wife Miyagi. Genjuro is a pottery maker. He lives in a small town. He's not making a lot of money. He's really a farmer with does pottery on the side, and but he sees the war as opportunity for him to sell his wares and make money on the new the number of people that are going to be passing through, and he
It took me a bit to understand why this would be economically, and I realized it's like it's not just it's not that he's even particularly a great uh a great potter. It's just simply like it's a local style. You're going
mhm.
home, you want to send something to your missus. It's not it is the movie. The first time I watched it, I was like, "Oh, he's just a great potter." And then watching it again, it's like it's even kind of more tragic because the only way he is going to succeed at this thing is during this time, and this time is awful.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see what happens as you'll continue.
Yeah, so basically, whereas Tobei wants to join the war and prove his greatness, Genjuro wants to basically capitalize on the war and make a better life for his wife and their young child.
Good job.
Uh,
He did great.
and the women basically they see their men as fools, and they basically beg them not to do these things. But so at one point they're fleeing. They flee together and they get on a boat and they're starting to go across, and then they see like a ghost ship, and there's this one man that's left alive just barely, and they give him sake before he dies, and he tells about pirates raiding and raping, and basically the men Tobei and Genjuro freak out, and they paddle back and they drop Genjiro's wife Miyagi off, and then they like
And his son.
you go to the woods, you find this other path, you'll be safe, and it's like, no, you fucking idiot, and and then they go off to the city
Then they
and
start to yell at each other from the shore to the boat. They're just
I know,
yelling at the top of their lungs, and I'm going.
bye
You're trying
bye,
to avoid. Yeah, you're trying to avoid being caught by soldiers who, as or pirates who, as we know now, will rape and kill you for any
and
provocation, mostly because they want to.
and I want to point out the soldiers in this are not depicted as great samurai and great men. There is, while we never see anything explicit, there are multiple scenes of suggested rape of the soldiers coming into these towns and just treating the local women very poorly. And that is what Genjuro basically pushes his wife off the boat with child. I mean, holding a child, not pregnant,
Yeah,
and
yeah, she's not
and says,
pregnant. She's already
you're
had him.
gonna be safer off the boat. And it's like, no, did you not just see what? Anyway, so
Also, it's very interesting that both of these. This movie is 11 years before the next one, and both of them take this view to samurai. Both of them are very, very down on the samurai.
oh, this movie, yeah, this does. And so they make it to the big city, and Genjuro is making his money selling his pottery and wares, and Tobey sees his chance with new money in his pocket to go buy armor and join the war effort. And
Oh, I
he
how
basically leaves his wife on the street there. Oh, how much?
not basically. He
I mean,
just does.
he just
100% does.
because she's like, no, don't you
Well,
do
no,
this,
no,
you
no, no. He
idiot.
doesn't.
And he's
Actually,
like,
he doesn't just leave her. He literally hides from her,
yeah,
so that he hides to the right of the frame, so that when she goes off the top of the frame, he comes back in from
mm-hmm.
to the left there,
Yeah,
and he
very
goes to
funny
the
movie
armor to the
trickery. Yeah,
yeah. He goes to the armory though, and I really like the armor. Like
yeah.
I like him a lot. That's a
I
great
love the
scene when
fact
he's
that
like, "Oh,
he
you're gonna need a spear."
Yeah, I love the fact that he just gets a breastplate and he thinks like, I'm done. I'm done. This is it. I look legit now. This is all I ever wanted. And it's like, you look like a bum with a piece of armor stuck on your chest. It
You look
doesn't.
like
It's not
you
impressive
look
at
like
all.
one of the bodies that's gonna die from an arrow to the neck
You're
in
right.
like
I
the
mean, yeah,
start of a movie, and you're gonna like just completely ignore them. They're gonna be off to the top third of the frame, like just barely in the background. You're just gonna notice one more body disappear. You're not gonna remember who.
no, yeah. And so to try to speed things along here, Genjuro,
Oh, sorry.
when he's selling his wares, a young woman comes up with her like I guess handmaiden or maid. How would you describe her?
She was the handmaid, I think.
Okay. Okay. So Genjuro is there, left in the city. Basically, he's now alone because he told his wife, go hang out in the forest. And
And he's doing
Ohama's.
great business. He is making
Oh,
the
he is
money.
doing great. He's killing it. And he's profiting off the war. And this young woman comes up, and she's Lady Wakasa, and orders a
I
bunch of
like Lady
stuff,
Wakasa
and
a lot.
yeah, she's cool, and orders a bunch of stuff, and says, deliver it to my manor at the end of the day. And he's like, cool, cool, cool. And so he does so, and so she's just enamored with his work and with him, and he's like, holy shit. And basically the people of Lady Wakasa's house are like, so hey, when are you getting married? And it's like, they fucking met 30 minutes ago. And he's kind of thinking, this is a little bit weird, but I'm into it because
I
he's
want.
getting love and respect and money. And you know what? He's moving up the ladder faster in these moments than he ever has before with his wife back home. And it's just, he forgets himself, and he kind of falls into a affair of lust and riches and good living, and
And he
seems willing
falls.
to ignore the fact that there's a um, samurai helmet on a pedestal that sings sometimes with the ghostly voice of Lady Wakasa's dead father. He just kind of like, we're going to ignore that. That's kind of the first hint in the movie that there's something a little
So
bit wrong in Lady Wakasa's house.
yeah, so I
Um,
want to talk about Lady Wakasa for a moment
okay.
while we're on her. So Lady Wakasa and the idea. Okay, so I have several points I want to hit actually that all kind of circulate around Lady Wakasa. So the first one is that you mention how he falls for her just like blam, and that's taken as direct inspiration from the Ghost of Yasuya,
Yeah, yeah.
and it and that is Japan's most that is their ghost story that has been filmed the most amount of times. There's over 40 versions of that, I believe. Either that or there's 29 of those, and there's over 40 of A Christmas Carol. One of those two,
Yeah,
because
no,
I compared them to each other before.
it's huge in Japan. There's been
Yeah,
uh,
and him falling for Lady Wakasa falls into that mold.
oh, for
And
sure,
Lady
yeah.
Wakasa, though, actually sets up a mold, which is interesting. You see a little bit of this duo in the 50s stuff, but really, like in the 60s stuff, you see it a lot, which is the younger woman and the older woman. The older woman may be a maid or a mother. They're in both a caring and a teaching role, and
Hmm.
that they're in a controlling role, and that quite often they are supernatural. Now, in the next film, Onibaba, they're not, but in Kuroniko, they are, for example.
Yeah, which is
And
directed by the same director Kaneto Shindo of Onibaba. Yeah.
yes, and it's definitely one we're going to be watching at one point because I love that movie and I love the duel, and you're going to see them. You see them in permeation in Ju-on, actually, for example. In
Hmm.
Ju-on, you have son and mother. Um, in the Ring, depending on which you watch, and that you have the mother in a very uh, odd role.
Yeah.
We get this again in One Missed Call, where we take our name from, and I think this particular trope, which is one of the richest and sort of most well defined of the tropes in Japanese horror that don't directly come down through their uh, their live art forms, such as No, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes. Yeah. No.
Yeah, such as that and Kabuki, when that for ones that come from a filmic, I think that this is probably their biggest filmic convention, and I think this film is the one that cemented it. I think this is the one that launched that, which says that for Japan, what this film did, this film did for Japan what Psycho did for America.
You mentioned no. I also want to point out that Lady Wakasa's makeup and look
Oh, absolutely.
is a no mask. She's wearing. I mean, she's not wearing a mask, but that is what she's meant to resemble with like the painted on eyebrows up on the forehead and stuff.
Why we have the no mask brought up, I would be remiss if I did not recommend our listeners try to get their hands on what is that book called? It's Alexandra Heller Nichols' book. It came out, I want to say 2020. I forget the exact title, and I'm sorry. I could look it up. I know, but basically, her book on masks in horror cinema. If you look
Okay.
for that, you'll find it. So it's good, close enough. But it is really, really good. It has my favorite concept that I have discovered in a scholarly text in a while, and there's a lot of discussion specifically on no mass. Plus, I'm in the works with interviewing her for Scriptophobic right
Oh,
now.
cool. All right.
Oh, I just dropped a reveal for something that I referenced a few episodes ago, and
Okay. Well, you
nobody
can delete it if you
remembers.
want to.
Bam! No, I mean
um.
it's we're having it's a fun interview so far, so I think everybody will
Oh,
like it.
cool. All
But
right.
legitimately, that book has a great discussion on how masks play into what she calls the shamanic imagination, my favorite concept. And
Hmm.
the stuff on the no mask is very interesting, and it will anybody that's into these movies would get a lot out of that, I think.
Before we move on to the rest of the story, I also want to mention one other thing about Lady Wakasa's part in the movie, where you mentioned about its similarities to the Ghost of Yatsuya. There are many similarities to the film Kwaidan or Kaidan. Um, just
Yeah.
you'll we'll get to that movie very soon, I expect. So I'll wait on some of that, but it's very similar. ideas and imagery, and I think that's interesting. So, um,
Is
so
that is
while
that for you? Is that imagery? Do you primarily see that reflection in the snow one from that film?
and also the I was mainly thinking of the segment in the manor with the hair.
Oh yes, yes, yes. The hair. You're absolutely. I forgot that that is that film.
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
right.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, just now
Hmm.
that just because we brought it up real quick, another quick aside,
Hmm.
connecting hair and that also sees a direct reflection that particular piece of Qui-Gon in House. I can see a
I
lot of that in House.
mean, you can see hair horror all through Japanese horror
Oh,
from House.
absolutely, absolutely. But I think how
Ju-on,
I
The
think
Ring.
that
Yeah.
I think there is a
Hell,
shot
Sion Sono
arrangement
made
in
a
House that
movie
is
about
pretty
hair
much.
extensions.
Yeah, but I think there's actually a shot arrangement that might be a direct
Oh,
reflection
you're
in those
right.
two.
No, you're right. You're right. Now I think of that. We'll get to House or House
Oh, that's
soon.
gonna be a fun
Yeah,
episode.
that's a great
You thought
movie.
Battle Heater was nuts, guys. Woo!
Okay, so while Genjuro is um, like hanging out and really falling for Lady Wakasa, his wife
Well,
is
she's cast like a glamour on him. You can't
yeah. I
really
mean,
say he's fallen for her. I don't. He does love his wife. I think she has charmed him away. Like
okay, but
I know
he
that
is
I think
enraptured.
he yes, but I think that he is enraptured because she is supernatural. I feel like okay, he's fucked up and he did the wrong morally with his wife, and that's why he's stuck there, right? But
I
I
mean,
don't. But I think, or that's why. Sorry, that's why he's susceptible to her. But I feel like from basically the moment he enters her house, he is now under her spell.
I would agree with that.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I'm trying to convey.
Okay. And while he's doing that, his wife Miyagi is uh starving and running with her child through the streets and trying to evade soldiers. And then elsewhere, Tobey, he's finally got his armor, and so he thinks he's on his way to being a samurai. And he happens upon a chance occurrence where he sees the enemy lord, get on his knees, and while his second stands by with sword to lop off his head after he cuts open his belly for seppuku and
Seppuku.
seppuku harakiri, and Tobey seizes the moment. And when the head is off his shoulders, Tobey grabs a spear and stabs the Lord's second, grabs the head, and basically runs off to his army and says, "See, I killed this great general. Look, I got his head." And they're like, "Fuck it, whatever." And they,
There's two important notes I want to make about this before
oh,
we
sure,
move
sure,
on
sure.
real quick. One is that he has already spoken to the his army before, and they
Yeah,
basically just ridiculed him.
yeah. They said basically,
And
you
so
got to come
he
back
has
with the right gear if you're going to be part of us. And so
yeah.
basically,
And when we first see him, the reason he stumbles upon this beheading and is able to profit from this is because he is hiding from battle. He is actively being a coward, and then
he
he
is
stabs a man in the back
shit.
and claims that he killed the general. And
Um,
his to their credit, the people he is fighting for, the people he is fighting for know that he has lied to them about killing the general, but he has
yeah,
still brought that head, and so they will still give him a retinue.
yeah, yeah. And so, and meanwhile, he okay, as an aside to talking to you as the editor, how much of the ending do we want to talk about?
Let's just throw on spoilers before we
Okay,
get to
I'm
it.
just like,
The movies
do
from
we want to?
'53. It's one of the most
Because
well known
for
Japanese
example, I
movies.
thought it interesting that not long after he stabs that soldier, Miyagi gets stabbed by a spear. So it's like,
I would be down to just say a quick. All right, well, and so we're gonna just a spoiler, just a quick, like literally just a sentence on it. It's
but
an
I
old
mean,
movie.
Okay. All right. All right. So, and in parallel with Tobei's success with the spear, we then not long after that we go back to Miyagi, who is running through the running down dirt roads with her child, and she's got food stuffed into her clothing, and some men come out of the reeds and like they try to steal her food, and she tries to fight back because they're starving, and they stab her with a spear, and she stumbles away, clutching her belly and screaming. And it's not long after that then that Tobei, feeling riding high and feeling like he's the samurai he always wanted to be, runs into his wife Ohama, who is now a fallen woman. That
But
is,
beautiful. She's so
oh, she's gorgeous,
like like
but
like she looks like she does. Here's the problem with this era of movies. A lot of the time, is she still looks like a movie star.
mm,
Like if they should have gone, they should have leaned into it more,
just a
but
little
they
bit,
couldn't.
yeah, yeah, and so Tobei kind of has a moment of reckoning, or no, not reckoning. Tobei has a moment of fuck. What's the word?
Retribution,
Tobey has a moment
reconciliation.
of recognizing the pain that he's caused in his pursuit of his ambitions as Ohama, who he loves but forgot has is not the person that he left her as. And so she's pissed, and he's so apologetic, and he must come to terms with whether or not what he pursued was worth it. And then Genjuro finds out that Lady Wakasa is a ghost.
Lady
um,
Wakasa is a very. I really like her presence in this movie. From the very beginning, like from the moment you're introduced to her, it doesn't like we never have spooky camera
no,
angles and
nothing. There's
spooky
nothing
music
scary
comes,
about her.
and that she's very delicate. But you know from the very moment, if you've watched any of these movies, like from the very moment she's introduced, your spidey senses go off, and you're like, there is something not right about this.
The no makeup might be a little bit of a clue, but
That is a bit of a clue. The fact that her I mean, before we get to the singing part and that which happens, which like that could be the way it sings. It's like, well, that could be like a breeze or something. Like it's not.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's 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 not the creepiest singing. You know what I mean? What's
No, no,
creepier
it's not.
more is
It's
they
it's it's
call the
odd.
sound. It's
It's
creepier that they call it him singing.
I mean,
But the
isn't it wonderful singing? This dead ghost
yeah,
singing out of my dad's helmet, and it's like that's totally
it
normal.
could
Let's move on.
it could be well like if she was a goth chick, we'd be like, okay, yeah, no, I get it. Like the
Yeah.
wind, the dead, the ghost.
Well, she's very
So it's like okay.
goth.
So you
Um,
have that. You have the weird makeup. You have the fact that she's away, and that like you're given enough. You're given enough clues to know what's happening, and that like it's not a surprise when she turns out to be a ghost. What is kind of surprising, however, is just like how it happens in the movie. Is like he's just there one day, he leaves, and then a Buddhist priest just happens to be like, "Whoa, shit, boy, you haunted
yeah,
here."
it's actually not the best written part in the movie. Where
It is it
basically,
is it is a Deus Ex because they had to get him out of it.
yeah,
In
and this,
honestly, like a priest, like a Buddhist priest for one of these films works very well.
no,
Like
for sure,
that's
yeah,
hitting the right iconography. I mean, Qui-Gon shows that really well,
yeah,
and so like that is absolutely
and
fit in, but it
and
just
also,
happens.
oh yeah, just happen. But also, I want to also point out that Buddhism and Buddhism is talked about fairly often in the movie, and
Oh,
more
Shinto
so
is a
than
big
a lot
part
of
of the next
Japanese
one too.
horror. What was that?
We actually this we've done a really tight double feature for what we ended up doing because both the movies that we're doing in the session are about the price of war. They're about the cost of
Mm-hmm.
what it does to women, and they
Mm-hmm.
also this one deals heavy with Buddhism, and that one deals with a mix of Buddhism and Shinto.
And Speaking of women, Lady Wakasa, one of the things, as the reveal that she's a ghost, happens, and Genjuro is realizing the error that he made, that he fell in love with this specter and he became
Only
bewitched.
because the Buddhist gave him like he
The
gave
Sanskrit.
him. Yeah, like it's like he ran into a magic items vendor that was just like, oh, your next slot's empty. Here, take this. It repels ghosts, and he puts
But
that on, and then it's like, oh god, I can have my life again. I'm gonna go back home, and everything's gonna be perfectly fine.
as Genjuro is realizing the error of his ways, and he's shouting, I made a horrible mistake, and Lady Wakasa and the old woman beside her are like, a mistake for you is something far worse for a woman, and Lady, or something like that, and it's like Lady Wakasa basically was denied happiness and the joys of a partner in life, and so she comes back in death looking for that, and in a
Me and
way
her are
that
gonna
makes
have
her
a whole
such a
lot to
sad
common, girl.
character, and it doesn't make her a monster. She's something tragic her own self. Yes, she lured a man in there and put her supernatural magic on him, but
Yeah, but what else do we call Dayton?
but there's, and then he kind of freaks out and wakes up the next day, and the manor in which he had stayed in all this time with her, it is burnt ruins, and so none of
He
this
talks to
happened.
somebody, and the person he talks to is like, that place has been fucked off for forever.
And then the camera pans over, and it's like just charred,
So
wood and
he
stuff.
goes home and he meets his wife in a lovely scene. He spends an evening with his wife, and he's finally overcome this, and we have our happy ending. We have our happy ending, and they say that there's not happy ending in Japanese movies. Like they're like, oh, everybody dies in The Grudge, but you know what? There could be happy endings because he goes home. He's got a great night with the wife. She forgives him. He's got a great night with
Oh,
the
so
kid.
forgiving.
Oh, it's great. She's so happy to have him back. It's so great, and that's where the movie ends. And then we get to have a good, happy mood for the rest of this episode, right, Kel? Oh, wait, sorry. Right, Kel?
No. um. So we so we have another ghost, and it's his wife who died from the spear wound she took,
She's
and
a nice ghost, though.
she's a nice ghost. But yeah, he has this reuniting with her when he gets back to town, and he's like so apologetic, and she's so forgiving, and then he wakes up, and just like
The
waking
house
up
is
at
like
the manor,
uglier too.
the house is different because she's not there, and he doesn't, and he has a hard time putting it together. And
Well, he wakes up because somebody's pounding on the door,
well,
and so
yeah,
he
I mean,
opens the door up because the kid is real.
for sure, no, no, I
So the
just mean
kid
to,
was the,
I was
the
trying not to say everything, but yeah, yeah.
oh, sorry. Well,
No,
it's
it's all right.
well, I mean, we
Just
already revealed that the wife's a ghost, so
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just it's the kid is real, which means like at
yeah.
some
So he
point
gets
the
his kid
mother,
back.
well, no, but at some point that night before he got there, because the kid was already there, so at some point before he came there that night, the kid was taken from the house of I'm going to say that was the mayor, just to give him a name.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It
somebody in
was
the
the
town.
village elder. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the elder. So he was at the house of the elder, and then he had to get to the his other house. So like, did the mother come and collect him and bring him there? Because she would
I
have had to know then too. Because
I tend to
one is
think that
alive, and that's actually really. I never thought about this before. It's
I
really creeping me out. So what is your thoughts on it?
I tend to think that the kid misses mom and dad, and ran home to sleep in a familiar bed. That's what I tended to think. But I mean,
But
maybe there's a supernatural thing to it.
do you think that he's doing that every single night?
I
Because
think it's
he
possible.
well, isn't that a little odd then? Because the whole town comes to gather him in the
That's
morning.
true. No,
Because
you're right. You're right. So that,
so
and the
I
village
think the
elder did
mother
say,
lured him away.
it's amazing. How did he know that you would be home? You're talking to the father, and it's like, well, maybe the ghost knew. And
I
so,
think that's what I think it's implying. Like, if you think about it, I think she had to have shown up and
hmm
led him away, which means that at some point that we did not see in this movie, a ghost just like abducted a child.
okay,
That's
but it's Mama Ghost though.
now we're figuring out why it's a horror movie.
And then to
That's
complete
some
the other
Santa
story
Claus
in the
2
movie,
creepy shit.
Tobei throws all his samurai armor and weaponry into the river, says, what a fool I was, and he goes back with his wife Ohama, and they return to their home happily ever after. Probably not. She seems pissed at him still, but he's
Yeah, and
learned from
they
his
could have
ways.
sold that spear. Like,
Yeah,
do they know nothing about, like,
they're not
you
the
don't throw it
capitalist
in the
couple,
water,
remember?
you throw it in the hole so that you can get it later.
And that pretty much sums up the story as a whole. I have some things to say about the cast and director, and also stuff to talk about as far as some of the themes. Do you have anything you want to say?
Not off the top of my head. I'm gonna let you
Okay,
take
all
it
right.
away with the. I want to hear about the cast and the director stuff first.
Okay, so first of all, the cast is all awesome.
Oh, they're amazing in this. This is a
Yeah,
really well acted movie.
I'm just going to give a little bit of a rundown on some of the cast so that maybe you know some of who they are. Machiko Kiyo plays Lady Wakasa. She was the wife who got, well, it depends who you ask, raped or killed in Rashomon. Wait, did she get killed? Anyway,
Oh yeah, she
who
dies
knows what
enough.
happened in Rashomon, right? She also was famous at that time for starring on the U.S. production the Tea House of the August Moon, starring alongside Marlon Brando and Yellowface as a Japanese man, because that was a good
Progressive.
idea. um, Mitsuko Mito played Ohama. She's best known in the West for her part in Hiroshi Inagaki's Samurai Trilogy. Eitaro Ozawa plays Tobei. He's less known than a lot of the other ones, but he has
Very good
uh,
though.
yeah, no, he's a character actor, often in supporting roles, ranging in work from The Return of Godzilla in '84 to Yasujiro Ozu's Record of a Tenement Gentleman. So, varied career.
Huh.
Um, Masayuki Mori played Kenjuro. He's a familiar face in a lot of Akira Kurosawa's films, often billed not far below Toshiro Mifune in films like The Bad
Is he?
Sleep Well, The Idiot, and Rashomon, where he co-starred with
Which one was he
Machiko
again?
Kiyo
Sorry.
as husband and wife.
Who was he again in this?
In this, he was Genjiro, the pottery maker.
He is the pottery maker, so he's in a lot of Akira. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And and then Genjiro's wife, Miyagi, is played by oh, I always mess up her name. Kinuyo Tanaka. She's one of the best known actresses in all of Japanese cinema from back then and today, and was a frequent collaborator with Mizoguchi until their falling out, which I want to get to.
Okay, now intrigue and drama.
Okay, so Mizoguchi was a perfectionist and also one to hold grudges. For example, he had a one-sided rivalry with Akira Kurosawa at this time because Kurosawa was about the same age, but his star just shot up like a rocket, whereas Mizoguchi had to fucking fight for it this time. And so
Oh, poor
and so like
baby.
he did not like Kurosawa, and Kurosawa did not seem to notice. And
That's the best part. It's just a small
Kurosawa,
dog yapping at a big dog.
Kurosawa, for what it's worth, didn't seem to like Yasujiro Ozu because he thought those movies were boring, if I remember right. But
Yeah, that's why I
anyway,
haven't watched them yet.
but so Mizoguchi held grudges, but he was a perfectionist, and he was a feminist with limits or conditions. So I wanted to speak a little bit. You called this movie a little bit conservative, and I would agree. And I think that's somewhat Mizoguchi. So he made a lot of movies I guess you could call them women's movies, but he made a lot of movies about women in Japan. But one of his views on women, from as I see it, is dutiful
Can I speak
and
about that?
sure.
This is a point I wanted to bring up, and I almost forgot about it. So I'm really glad we
Hmm.
actually get here. Which is that I'm going to say no. I don't remember which book it was. If I
Okay.
remember it, I'll add it to the show notes. But I was reading a book about Japanese cinema, and it talked about. I do know what it is, but I will have to add it because I don't have the title.
Okay. All right.
Okay, but it talked about the Confucian mindset that and what that did growing up, because that's kind of in the West here we have the patriarchy, but ours comes from a more like European and the king sort of inspired one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And with Japan, the Confucian one, it is still very misogynistic and very patriarchy driven, but there is a level of duty to it in which there is different in people that you are dutiful to, and there is separation between the self and the community. So one thing that we see Genjuro failing in here, in that he is failing to be dutiful. So even in his role, he is supposed to be dutiful to the family, which actually then is him being dutiful to the community as a whole. So he's failing the community, which is
Mm-hmm.
why we do see the elder come back at the end, because you need that part to remind you of he didn't just fail his wife
Right.
in that.
No. Yeah.
And so that comes from that, and women were then supposed to be dutiful to the husband, and that in the lack of the husband they're supposed to be dutiful to the son, which is something that then comes up interestingly in our next film. But
And it does kind of, in a way, it still comes up in this one as dutiful to the son, even in death. But
yeah, and in this one of the things that we see is that, yeah, the woman is so dutiful that, like, her last, excuse me, her the thing that is keeping her on this plane is that she has to see him again, which
mhm.
is in no way is it because she has violence, and it's not even that she is waiting for him to come back to her. I believe, I think it's because she needs to essentially let let him off, and
Well,
that because it
if you
is his
remember,
lesson.
her final lines, which she gives after she's dead, is her watching over him and basically saying, "You've finally become the man I always wanted you to be." And it's like she's like so proud of him and so forgiving, and honestly, in my opinion, too forgiving. Um,
Right, bitch should be mad.
oh, she should be pissed.
Bitch
And
should be throwing fists. Are you kidding me? And then talking, she should be fucking taking his hair and putting it in that loom and weaving it into a fucking knot. Like,
but she's so loving, and it's listen, it's
it's
sweet and
dutiful to the
it's
extreme.
beautiful, but it's also it's I don't know if I really totally love it, that part. But
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
listen, I
love
love
that
the
part,
film,
but
but
I also understand that, like, it's
it's
a
a classic
different it,
cinema sort of moment.
and it's
But
also, it really is playing with a system of obligation that existed within that era, and whether or not this is how it would have played out in real life, were these people real, or whether or not this is a romanticized version of that system played out in a narrative function, the chances are probably the latter, but we're not never going to be able to know. But at being that this is now nearly 70 years old, it's hard to watch this and feel like it's trying to reflect our current age. It does feel like it is dated in that sense, but that's the same sense where it's like it's far enough removed that it's almost like it's a fantasy rather than a reflection of reality.
I do want to make a note about the original intent as a filmmaker.
Oh, that's a good point.
The Miyagi and Granjuro, the ghost wife and the pottery maker, that is how Mizuguchi wanted it. However, he wanted the Tobei and Ohama story to end differently. And despite his producer giving him complete artistic control, executives at the studio stepped in and read his script and they were like, no, no,
Oh,
no. So what he wanted Tobei, he didn't want Tobei to learn from it.
boo.
He wanted Tobei to basically look at what happened to his wife and decide, I'm okay with this. I got what I wanted.
That's
And
the
he
right
would,
ending. Oh my god,
and,
yes.
and, you know, that's the, and it was so pessimistic that the
That's
studio
the
was just,
ending that yes, that's the ending that would actually give this much more like if you wanted to be a feminist in any sense, that's the ending you need because the ending you have with her is like I became a sex worker because I couldn't support myself, but you're back. Oh, I got a grudge with you, but okay, here we are.
yeah. And, so yeah, that's a little, in a way, okay, listen, I love this film. I will give this 5 stars and praise it, and I
Second
hope that
here, sing
people
it,
watch
sister.
it. But at the same time, the final moments are not my favorite moments because I feel like
No, I did not know
the
about that
the
ending. We need that ending.
yeah. Um, and I also wanted to mention about Mizuguchi, who who tried to tell stories of women and tried to even from a conservative standpoint. Maybe it was just the times. I don't know. And though he was generally thought of as a feminist in that sense, the falling out with his favorite leading lady Tanaka is interesting because Tanaka was approached after a film at the studio lost its director. They came to her and like, "Hey, direct this movie," and this was really not usual in the 50s for women to be directing movies in Japan, but she was such a big name. And Mizuguchi stepped in and was like, "No, no, you can't hire her." I think he tried to hide behind
Uh,
directors guild sort of things, but basically he tried to
Basically,
block
boys'
her.
club.
He tried to block her, and they never were. She never worked with him again. For what it's worth, she did go on to direct a number of movies without him. So she made off
Go
all right.
girl.
But yeah. So Mizuguchi seemed to have
That's
his
disappointing.
conditions on the. He would support women, and then kind of like, what,
Psych.
not this far. Yeah. And but yeah, okay. So I think that pretty sums up a lot of what I wanted to say about the movie and the people that made it. Oh, I wanted to say one other thing. This is based on some short stories. And
Oh, the short stories were included in the book with the script
yes,
that I had saw.
well, they're also included in the Criterion release of the movie. At least on DVD, I think they are on
Beautiful.
Blu-ray. So,
I need it.
Ugetsu is based on a few short stories, including The House in the Thicket, A Serpent's Lust, and How He Got the Legion of Honor.
I like
The
those titles.
Yeah, I think that I can't remember what it is credited as, but at the beginning of the movie, the it does kind of say that it's based on certain titles, and I mean, even at the beginning of the movie, it says something about how these stories have uh, you know uh,
Yes, yeah, it does.
interested and amazed Japanese readers for a long time, and so you can read some of the source text if you get the Criterion release, and to
Speaking of
that point,
releases, Kelly, where could besides getting the physical release of it on somewhere like Amazon from Criterion, where else can you find this movie?
well, Criterion, the Criterion Channel.
That's where I
So
watched it. Yep.
yep. So this is on DVD and Blu-ray from Criterion in the West, and it's also streaming on the Criterion Channel. We're gonna try to mention where you can watch these movies from now on. You might also find this on Canopy, but I'm not certain about that. Canopy has some of the Criterion titles, but so but yeah, so you can. it's definitely a movie worth checking out. It's one of the
100% get
greats.
it. Watch it.
It's
It's amazing.
Mizoguchi, for his faults and everything, is regarded as one of Japan's greatest filmmakers of all time, and Ugetsu is generally considered the, if not the best, then at least the most well known of his films in the West. And if you're trying to go through some Japanese cinema that you might have missed, Ugetsu needs to be on that list if it isn't, if you've not seen it. So
I
yeah,
would
check out
support.
that one.
I would just say ditto on that. 100%. Like, if you are interested in Japanese cinema, this is a foundational text.
And next week, we're going to be watching another important Japanese horror film, classic Japanese horror film, Onibaba from Kaneto Shindo, the 1964 film about um, surviving the war. Like you said, it's an interesting sort of.
Doing my job for me.
It's an interesting duo. This week's movie and next week's, and yeah, this was your pick.
This one was
Is there
my
anything
pick
about
because,
it in particular that you were most interested in talking about or whatever?
well, as I was watching Ugetsu, I was like, oh yeah, this is. I like this era a lot, and I
Mm-hmm.
really like Kuroniko, and I like Black Cat Mansion, and so I really like this era. But Onibaba, I didn't give it the highest rating the first time I watched it, but it is the early Japanese film that has stuck with me the most.
Mm.
And I really enjoy it. Now, one part of that is the titties. There is a lot of topless women.
um,
Well, no,
yeah, there's a lot of
there's a
boobs.
lot of there's a there, no, there are four boobs, but there's a lot of time spent with boobs. And
Thank you for specifying the number.
okay, that's what I do. Don't worry.
Yeah, the
But
precise data.
it really it captures a very interesting eroticism, but also not desolation so much, but not desperation either. Almost like a apathy, like a great malaise. And life is, I mean, there is desperation. Desperation is at the core of it, but
Mm-hmm. I was going to say.
so is the idea of existing and what your role is. That's another key point. We see that echoed in this. Another thing that plays in that, which is Lady Wakasa does this well actually, is like the what is propriety to a woman in this time, and that in Japan at this time.
And we'll
That is
get
a
to some
very
of the rest of this in next week. But I'm sorry. I was,
yeah, absolutely. It's just it's this. There's so much to this movie.
it
So
seems very simple, but it's actually there's a lot to it. Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's this tiny, tiny film, and so I didn't like it at first, and it stuck with me. And it just happened to turn out that it paired really well this week, and I'm so happy we actually ended up double featuring because this is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you now, you can check that one out on the Criterion Network too. And so check that out. Come back next week. We'll be talking about it. We'll have a good time.
All right. See you then.